Hey, Cal, this is amazing. I can't believe it. So near and yet so far. We're both in Adelaide, but you're at home and I'm in a box here at Adelaide Oval. So it's we're almost there.
Yeah, we're close. It's exciting. We didn't quite get up to the Gabba with Triple M, but we're in Adelaide and we're excited about it. It's going to be a big test, isn't it?
Are you ready for a hug?
I am. Yeah, I've been told I need to bring a chest guard though for hugs with you.
All I can say is get ready for a broken effing rib cage. Now let's get on with the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Timed Out, a special second test preview for Sporting News with the great Callum Ferguson. Yes, we're in Adelaide. It's all been happening. I've spent a lot of time watching things in the nets and all the various intrigue, but we're almost there. It's almost time. Could it be
We
2-0?
are.
Can we fight back?
Oh look, do you want to start early? Do you? I can fire off now, or we can wait for the topics. But it's going to be a huge test. What a great, yeah, what a great test match it is. It's the number one on the calendar for mine. Boxing Day itself probably trumps any particular day at the Adelaide Test, but from a purely a spectator's point of view and being at the ground and the experience, there's nothing like the Adelaide Test, and I'm sure you're the same. You can't wait to get amongst it.
Yeah. It's like no bias here. Adelaide boy talking.
None
We all
whatsoever.
know
It's
about
just the
that.
best experience on the calendar. That's all it is.
Absolutely. Well, let's get stuck into our topics because there's a lot to talk about. And if you're joining us live, sorry, guys, I did just say, if you are joining us live, please do feel free to drop any comments or questions into the box, and we'll bring them in if we possibly can. So hello to all of you. First topic all up is Warner worries. Now, we've just been told, so just come hot out of the press conference with Pat Cummins, and he says Warner will play and he'll be fine. He batted for about 25 minutes yesterday in the nets, and he did look when he played pull shots, it was an audible bit like that sort of noise.
Yeah, okay.
So he was clearly uncomfortable, and after he batted for a little bit, just throwdowns, which are normal for him anyway. You could see him holding his rib cage while he was talking to Justin Langer and the physio. But the word is he'll play, he'll be fine. Have you played with bruised ribs? Like, just how difficult do you think that will be pain management-wise?
Yeah, look, I haven't played with like a serious bout of bruised ribs. I've copped a few hits there, but clearly not as painful as what David has. I've played with a side strain, which is a similar area, and depending on where you tear your side, it can be, I think, a little bit similar, and it is very painful because you feel like as a right-hander, your whole left side is really tender and you don't have full use, and you are playing with some pain. The fact that it's not a muscle tear or a tendon tear and there's no cracks in the bone, that suggests that a few painkillers, and whether it's injection or via tablet form, he'll be able to get through relatively well. But you obviously don't want to go too hard on some painkillers because it can make you a bit groggy. So you want to make sure that you're pretty switched on, and he'll manage that, I'm sure. He's a tough customer. Let's face it. He's one of the toughest on the circuit. So I'd be very surprised if he wasn't right up for this contest. Beware the wounded warrior. He's already coming off a great hit out at the Gabba. I'd be watching out if I was the English bowlers because he might come out and do some more damage.
Well, speaking of England's bowlers, do you reckon they might just try and target that early on? And the danger of bowling short, it could play into Warner's hands, but also they might just want to see how uncomfortable he is.
Yeah, look, if they get too carried away bowling short at the Adelaide Oval with a brand new pink ball, then they'll be in some serious trouble, I think. You're going to give him a short ball here or there like you probably would on any other occasion. What you're looking for is for him to be particularly uncomfortable whenever you do that in the hope that it will set up your good balls that are sort of hitting top of off stump and challenging the forward defence. If you start going searching short and just targeting that one area, I think you're almost nullifying the brand new pink ball on what is a thatchy surf at Adelaide Oval. We know that the seam digs into the wicket when it's brand new, and with the extra grass, it stays newer for a bit longer. So if you waste too much time bowling short, I think you're heading the wrong path in a big way.
Yeah, that is the key, and also Pat Cummins did indicate that he wouldn't be playing with painkillers at this point. I think we're going to move on. I know the Ducks haven't come in yet, but we've got so much to get through, and I can see you all coming online. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. Oh, there's a 10. See, I beat you. We're quick. We're in and out quick today. So the next one, I can see some of you asking about who's in for Hazlewood, and we have just had it confirmed by Pat Cummins that it will be Jai Richardson. No real surprise. It was a real disappointment, Cal. We were all ready for the bowl-off in the nets yesterday, and it didn't happen. They both batted in nets next to each other for a little bit, and then Michael Neser left and Jai Richardson was the only one to bowl. So it seemed pretty obvious that it was going to be him, confirmed today. You've seen a lot of Jai. What do you think that he will bring that's similar and different to Josh Hazlewood? And do you think he's a good choice?
Yeah, I do think he's a good choice. They were pretty fortunate that they had two very good choices up their sleeve in Jai Richardson and also Michael Neser. Both those guys are fantastic with a pink ball. They both move the ball off the straight. Jai Richardson at a slightly quicker pace. That's probably the only, probably the thing that might have just got him over the line. He is a very dynamic bowler, Jai Richardson, and when he's fit and firing, which by all reports he is, he bowls over 150 and swings it both ways. I mean, he's going to challenge these English batters at the top of the order. I remember batting with Usman Khawaja in a Big Bash game last year. We were really struggling to line him up because he's so whipped the crease, and they were swinging conditions, and he was really hard to get in line with and try and make good contact with the ball because it was just a bit of a blur coming at times because he was swinging it so late as well. So he's going to be a real challenge, particularly early on, and I hope they get the ball in his hands while the ball is pretty new because he's going to cause a lot of issues for some of the English top order. I'm not sure whether Pat Cummins might open the bowling with him now that he's picked him because he is such a prodigious swinger of the ball, and we know the pink ball swings.
We actually asked Pat. Well, we actually asked Pat. It was asked that in the press conference just then. Will he take the new ball? Obviously, with Hazlewood and Stark taking it in the first test, and he said maybe. He was a bit unsure. He said I might see how which way the wind's blowing tomorrow. Not literally, but you know what I mean. So there was a bit of uncertainty there. So he doesn't seem to be quite sure yet. So it's one really interesting one to look for.
It is. I could see potentially maybe Pat Cummins opening the bowling if they lose the toss and they find themselves bowling first tomorrow during the day, because there's usually less swing around with that new pink ball in the daytime. It's at night time when if you get a new ball in your hand, and we'll talk about this a bit later on, it does seem to swing and nip off the wicket a bit more, and in which case, maybe you'd go with Jai to, access that extra swing. But, either way you go, you're looking at world-class bowlers who are elite at challenging defences, so you can't go wrong. Pat will get it right either way.
There we go. Might be some more of those. Who knows?
There might be a few tomorrow.
Yeah, might be. Who knows? Hopefully not 36 all out. Next topic up. England's bowlers jockey for a start. play. So at the moment, it looks like Jimmy Anderson will play, and from there, and I think Ollie Robinson plays. From there, I think it's still a bit of a mystery, and it might sort of depend on whether or not they go with a spinner, which we'll talk about the role of spin. But it does really still feel like England that they have several options, and it's not completely clear, whether we'll see, say, Wood and Wokes, or whether or not Broad might come into it. They all look brilliant in the nets, but I tell you, every fast bowler looked brilliant in the nets here. There was a torrid day for batters of all denominations, sizes, and everything in the nets. So it feels like England still have a lot to think about with that. So I don't know, sort of your thoughts on what you've seen, Cal, but it does look like Jimmy Anderson is certainly back. And I think he and Ollie Robinson are probably the two locks at the moment.
Yeah, look, really it depends on what their roadmap is for Mark Wood. He's obviously a heart and soul bowler. He bowls fast, and he bowled fast for long spells in that last test. So he's, depending on how he's pulled up from that, might depend a little bit on whether Broad plays or not. From what you're saying there, you're pretty convinced Jimmy Anderson's going to play. I'm pretty convinced Ollie Robinson's going to play. So it's probably Mark Wood. What's the management scheme look like for the tour? Where do they think his pace and airspeed is going to be maximised? Is it a Thatchy Adelaide over wicket? I'm not sure. They're going to have to be without him at some point. I don't think he's going to be able to get through 5 tests without getting hurt. So this could be the one on a Thatchy wicket where the pink ball doesn't stay as hard as what a red ball does. So therefore the extra pace might be nullified a little bit. It's a really tough one, but certainly I feel like there's going to be a spinner played by England. If they don't, I think they're in trouble. Having a decent understanding of how the Adelaide Oval wicket is these days and the success Nathan Lyons had. So I think it's a bit of a wait and see on... I'm not sure it's necessarily just down to skill sets. I think it's about management of Mark Wood, because they desperately need him on the flatter wickets where there's no movement in the air. There'll be plenty of that at the Adelaide Oval. So do they need him?
Well, that's it. And I think they're banking a bit, like, especially on someone like the likes of Wokes, if the ball is moving around a bit, to sort of get the feeling that he might actually be a good shout for playing. It is really hard because I tell you what, they all looked really, really good. But
the other thing I was going to say, were they calling no balls in the nets? Because that's usually a pretty good head start for the quicks in the nets. They always look pretty good when there's no one on the front line. But
funny you say that, because Ben Stokes, of course, had all those problems with no balls at the Gabba. So he spent a solid 20 minutes at the start with Chris Silverwood, the coach, in just sort of walking through it and then slowly building up. And I spent about 20 minutes just with him doing that and working on his run up before he joined the other quicks in the fast bowlers net. And he looked freaking awesome. Like at one point, I think he bowled Joe Root and he also badged him, which you don't see very often. So he actually looked amazing. Yeah, so
it's good.
All there to play. A little bit unsure for England, but let's move on. I reckon we've got so much to get through. Let's do it.
That's good. Yeah, let's do it. Keep on
rolling. So let's bring up our next topic, which is, I think it's about
the
spin.
Importance of spin. There it is.
Now, I can see Ray PMB9 says in home tests, Lyon has taken 204 wickets at 32.87. Other spinners in those matches have taken 180 wickets at 63. And more importantly, his economy has been excellent as well. I actually think at Adelaide Oval, though, I could be wrong, but I think he's taken about 51 wickets at an average of about 26. So his figures in Adelaide are actually really good, which maybe suggests that. And we're talking to Damien Hoff, the head curator here, and he was saying basically England would be making a big mistake if they didn't include a spinner. I don't think it's clear if they will, or if they might feel that Joe Root is going to be as effective, which is a really sad thing to say, as either Jack Leach or Dom Bess. But now that Warner's playing, and the way he took Leach out of the attack and destroyed him at the Gabba, there might be a little bit of concern about that. But just your own experience, Cal, well, how much does it take spin here, and at what parts of the game? It's not just a second innings thing, is it?
No, it's not. Adelaide Oval has actually offered some spin to the spinners a bit earlier in the game than what you might expect, and it also depends a little bit on how much moisture's in the wicket. But there is a fair bit of grass on it. It's quite thatchy, so it does give the seam a chance to dig into the pitch, and you do see a little bit of a tennis ball style bounce, whether it's from the pace bowlers and the spinners at the Adelaide Oval as well, which that extra bounce is part of the reason why Nathan Lyon's been so good. He's an up and over style off spinner, gets good revs on it, and he's able to extract more bounce than others. So where other spinners are seeing themselves get a little bit more spin, he gets an even more exaggerated bounce. And that's where you see a lot of left-handers get out to him, caught at point, driving the ball in the air on the front foot. And it's because of the overspin that Nathan Lyon creates. And it just, it's something that he's got an advantage over a lot of spinners with. I feel like they went with who they thought was their best spin bowler and all-round spin bowler in Leach at the Gabba. But the matchup just didn't look right to me before the start. So many left-hand batsmen in the top order for the Australians, even Carey at 6, Carey at 7, Stark at 8, or 9, depending on where Pat and Starkey bat. That does swap around a little bit, but there's so many left-handers, and I feel like Bess is the better matchup. And sometimes I feel like teams get drawn into, and I'll get quacked out here in a second, but sometimes you need to look at what's happening in the other side, and if they're going to nullify your better option in other circumstances, then you've got to go for the matchup if you think you can get an advantage. And Dom Bess will offer them that. He's a young spinner on the rise. He's got the potential to play for 10 years for England. This is the type of opportunity. Adelaide Oval, Nathan Lyon's made a fantastic fist of these conditions in the past. Why wouldn't you give the young fella a crack? He's been able to have an impact for England at different stages. Not as consistently as Leach, but he's certainly had an impact, just not as consistently. So I think give him a chance in conditions and against a batting lineup that suits him. If it doesn't work out, Stokes is there to try and tie it down and keep it a bit more economical. The majority of their quicks are pretty economical bowlers, apart from Mark Wood potentially. But I feel like they're set up well enough with Stokes in particular to play the spinner, and it needs to be Dom Bess in this test match, in my opinion.
Well, strong words there. I don't think they're going to, but I could be wrong. They could change things. Certainly the reading of it here is if they do play a spinner, it'll be Leach, but they may end up leaning on Joe Root, which is, if they do end up playing Joe Root essentially as a frontline spinner, that's a pretty, damning thing to say about England cricket and producing spinners. I think
it's a defensive move too for mine. I don't think it's an aggressive, positive move. I think that there's left-handers for days in the Australian side. The positive move is to get the off spinner that you've brought on tour. If you're going to pick guys on tour that you don't think are going to play, why are they there? Like guys that if you're not confident to pick them, why are they in the touring side? Like it wouldn't make sense for me. The conditions match up well with the left-handers in the Australian side. Get Dom Bess in.
All right, I'm going to pass that on. If I see Chris Silverwood and Callum Ferguson, what is? That's it. Callum Ferguson's quacking away about this. Okay, let's bring up our next topic. the enduring mystery of when the pink ball does what. And that's it still is a mystery, isn't it, Callum? Like that we've still only had a small sample size, relatively small sample size when it comes to pink ball tests. And people think it's going to do a certain thing at certain times of the day, but then sometimes it doesn't. It's like it can change from hour to hour, even if it's a sunny afternoon. Just Pat Cummins was just saying then, sometimes it's like if it's not as cool, or or if the temperature changes, then suddenly it stops swinging, or if there's a breeze about. It just seems to be really difficult for the players to still know. So there still seems to be so much mystery about it, and perhaps there's a danger too that you've got a new captain in Pat Cummins in working out how he does things tactically, and then for visiting teams, it's always the thought of, oh, we want to be bowling at this time of the day.
Yeah, look, these are my experiences. The ball will swing quite prodigiously if you've got swing bowlers at the crease, whether it's day or night. During the daytime, it won't swing for very long.
Mm-hmm.
Not nearly as long as it will if you have a brand new ball at the start of an innings when it's dark. And once nighttime falls, there's a bit of a theory getting around that when it's hot and the sun's out, that the grass sort of lays down a little bit. And then at night time, when things start to cool down, the grass stands up a little bit taller. So normally you wouldn't notice something like that potentially, or there'd be less scope for it because most cricket pitches don't have a huge amount of grass on them. These wickets for day-night test matches have a considerable amount of grass on them, and quite often there's a bit of live grass on there at the start of a test match, and it will stand up a touch more and it will swing more and it will seem more with a brand new ball under lights, particularly later in the night, like the last sort of 7-8 overs of the day, because it will have cooled down significantly. So I feel like that's the toughest time. If you can get a new ball in your hand around that time, sort of 10-15 overs to go, inside that range, then you're right in the mix to do some serious damage, and it's tough for the batters. But during the day, if you can do some hard work early on against the new ball, then you can really cash in, because the ball does lose a bit of its edge quite quickly. It softens up quicker than the red ball, and you can really nestle in and get yourself set at the crease. So that's my experience, and I feel like the Australian players in particular will have a decent handle on that. The majority of the, particularly the New South Wales players in that side, they've played a lot of games at Adelaide Oval under lights against South Australia. I know firsthand because I kept running into Josh Hazlewood and Mitchell Stark at the start of the season. But they will have a good handle on this, and whilst they might be playing that down a little bit, there's enough experience in that lineup, obviously with Travis Head and Alex Carey in there as well, to know pretty confidently how the wicket and how the ball will play.
Yeah, I can see a question from Ray PMB. They're saying, what are the difficulties as a batter, especially in the twilight period? And is it picking up length, seam position? Is it really hard?
Yeah, it's probably as much as anything in the field. Actually, it starts to get quite hard to pick the ball up, particularly square of the wicket when you're in the field. But as a batter, when the light is changing over, that's quite tricky, whether it's a red ball, white ball for day-night games, or a pink ball. So generally that's pretty universal across the three formats. So no doubt, at twilight, the lights are changing over, they're taking over. That will be a tricky period, and it'll be a period that the batters take note of and probably just knuckle down a little bit harder for, just until the light the unnatural light has fully taken over.
Yeah, and
that's a very good question.
It is a great question. There we go. Yeah, there's always that funny point. Yeah, good timing. That funny point where the shadows literally meet, where you have the ground literally half in in sunlight, half the shadow and the lights are coming on as well. It's weird competing
Yeah, I
lights.
always found it tricky, and I actually asked Brad Haddon on Triple M Cricket during the last Test match. Do you find it difficult, or did you find it difficult through that period where the shadows were coming across the pitch? And he said, yeah, look, when the ball goes from, the shadow to the light to the shadow or vice versa, it is tricky. So that sort of couple of over period is one you've got to watch out for as a batter.
Yeah, always look out for that. Now, before we go as well, what's caught your eye in the Big Bash? Because I know you've been right across that while I've been totally consumed by watching batters in the nets, basically.
Yeah, look, and that's the fun stuff, isn't it, around Test time? Because you pick up little bits and pieces and you get a feel for what the teams are thinking coming into the next game and the next Test match. But look, there's been a few things. The Scorchers have had two players make 100 for their team so far this tournament. They're looking red hot at the moment. Mitchell Marsh last night, second game of the Big Bash, and made 100. What a player. Just an absolute superstar. Sorry, it is his first Big Bash game, but not his first game since the World Cup. And walked back in at number 3 and went whack. Made 100 down at Bell Reeve. Great place to bat. He's just rolling along beautifully after a second innings. A decent knock in the second innings of the A game. And then Colin Munro, 100 against the Strikers at Optus Stadium. What a phenomenal innings that was. Sydney Showground Stadium that one was, I think. And he just went whack. And there's not been many hundreds made at Sydney Showground Stadium. It's a bit of a slower wicket normally. But that night he went absolutely ballistic. So I'm loving what the Scorchers are bringing to the table with the bat. We've seen a few slightly lower score games. We saw at Metricon a really tight one the other night, which was great to see. Between, who was it, the Heat and the Renegades. It looked like it was going to be a canter. Then, the Renegades, with all their experience in the bowling stocks, dragged it back, and then a couple of lusty blows from Baisley got them over the line. But the one was the one at the game at the MCG between the Thunder and the Melbourne Stars. Adam Zampa, who had been right in the thick of it throughout the World Cup, said to Glenn Maxwell, give me the ball, mate. I'm going to bowl the last over and defend, I think it was 9, and did it in a canter. Did it really easily. What a fantastic performer. They got over the line in a close one in the last over, and there's been plenty of exciting Big Bash cricket so far, and it's going to be a big tournament. There's no doubt about it, and I expect actually the Stars and the Thunder to be right in the thick of it at the back end. So to see those two teams play a close one, nice and early in the tournament, gives a good indication for what's to come, I think.
Well, I do call you Cal Stradamus, so I'm expecting us to be able to pull out that prediction later on in the season. But
yeah, absolutely. Along with the Scorchers, I think they're the 3 teams to look out for as we speak.
Excellent. Well, I'm just going to be all about the test match for the next few days. All eyes on Adelaide. And I'm so looking forward to seeing you. This is amazing. We haven't seen each other in this whole time we've been doing this show. We've never actually been in the same place. So
no, that's right. So yeah, it'd be great.
It'd be good. Yeah, it'd be good.
Well, we might even get a chance to do the show off the same laptop at some stage, same camera. Imagine that.
I know the excitement's too much for me. It'd be too much for our viewers. But look, for all of you with your questions, I'm sorry we can't get to more, but we really appreciate you coming on, and we love reading your comments. Please do give us a like and a subscribe on Sporting News, and feel free to share around, and just make sure you get those little notifications so that you can know when we're going to be back on. Thank you, Cal, and let's all get excited about another big test match tomorrow. See if England can come back a little bit. I'm hoping. I want it to be 1-1, but
yeah, I'd like that too. I'm not confident that they will, but we'd love to see them put in a good one and hopefully take one down into the fifth day, because I don't know that we've seen too many Adelaide tests go that deep. So let's hope for it. It'd be great.
Absolutely. I certainly hope for it. At least 4 days, but we shall see. We shall see. So until next time that we do the show, I hope all of you really enjoy watching, whether it's the Big Bash, Test cricket, whatever it is you're watching around the world. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
See you guys. Bye.
Oh, my
Nice
knee.
work.